Greetings friends, Reformed Stoic here, back with another video. So, this one, we haven't done one of these in a while. I try not to do black pill content here anymore, but I think what differentiates mine is that, there's advice, hope. I'm not just kind of like groveling about bad experiences and poor treatment. I'm trying to give people advice here. Now, starting off, do I think I speak from experience? Yes, I do. And at some point, after this video, or even if you want to pause right now real quick, go to my shorts tabs and look at my latest short where I tell people to sign up to my kick. That is a very unflattering angle of my face. I think it's all about angles, man. Sometimes I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, man, the mustache is looking good. Got to keep the hairline nice and short. Muscles are a little bit pumped up, and sometimes I think I look good. So I don't want people to think that I think I'm really ugly or anything, but I do believe that I speak from experience. And keep in mind, I was considering saying unattractive. I think maybe unattractive is a little bit more of a flattering term than ugly. We're just kind of, we're using titles that get clicks. So I, first and foremost, do not believe that I'm ugly. But there are a couple of things about me that are just the way they are. I have a crappy hairline. I actually had a crappy hairline ever since I was a child. I had a really deep widow's peak. I mean, I think at one point it was a widow's peak, but I basically started losing my hair probably in late high school. I'm 5'8". Now that is the perfect height to get gaslit. Sometimes it's average, sometimes you're manlit. Basically how anybody's feeling at any given moment. Basically in a context that is disagreeing with what I'm saying. Like if I'm telling somebody that I've struggled with women in life because of my height, then they tell me that 5'8" is average, or dude, 5'8's not even short. But then when I'm kind of walking around, strutting my stuff and being confident and, wearing a polo and trying to be a man and be out there and be living it, then all of a sudden I'm a manlet. So 5'8" is the perfect height to get gaslit. I'd recommend you find a bunch of famous people who are the same height as you. I got Floyd Mayweather. I got Kanye West. I got Joe Rogan. I got Christian Slater. We're doing all right. 5'8" gang. We're going to be all right. So I just wanted to start off with that. I'm feeling all right about life. It's not attractive to tell people that you think you're ugly. So that's out of the way. So this video is going to be titled, Ugly Men Get Disrespected and Gaslit, which causes mental illness? Is that what I'm going to say? Ooh. Which hurts your mental health. Which hurts your mental health. Something like that. I'll clean it up for the title, but it's damaging to your mental health to regularly be gaslit and disrespected. I don't know if you've seen videos of a black goose or a albino animal of some sort. I've seen these videos before where there's some sort of a runt in a pack, or there's a gathering of animals and one of them looks different from the rest of them, and the animals bully and attack that animal for being different. It actually happens in nature. Blending in is a defense mechanism, and there's this interesting reality to the world as a man, where on one hand you want to be like the peacock who stands out and has the big beautiful feathers, but then on the other hand you don't want to stand out in a negative way, like being a freak. Now what's the difference between a freak and a Chad, I guess. I kind of wanted to use a better terminology than that there. But there could be a fine line, and a lot of very successful people kind of start out as freaks, and people never seem to really realize they don't seem to realize that until the last second, not until it's too late. So yeah, what happens with this, and this is something that gets talked about quite a bit in the Black Pill, here's how your life is going to go if you are unattractive or ugly, or you have some of these things, short, balding. These are disadvantages. You're going to do the best that you can, knowing what you know. You're going to live your life, and you're going to struggle. You're going to get bullied when you're young. You're going to get bullied middle school, high school. Maybe it starts out like physical. Maybe it gets to a point where maybe you're bigger and you're working out. And that brings up an important aspect of, so there's not just ugly or unattractive. There's also just like weak, which I would feel like falls under the category of unattractive. Oftentimes goes hand in hand with being short. Shout out if you're a human fridge, if you're like 5'7", 250 pounds, or you're like Daniel Cormier or something, you know what I'm saying? Like, there are some short guys that are not necessarily small guys, but yeah, being small, being beta, that also falls under the category of being unattractive. And so you're going to be going through your life, and you're going to struggle. And eventually you're going to get to a point where you vocalize this. You vocalize it to people around you. Hey, you know what? I'm struggling with women because I'm short. What do people say to that? Dude, like, oftentimes they will insult you. You will be insulted. Like, dude, you're an idiot, man. Or like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, bro? Like, bro, you were literally making fun of me for being short, like, last week, telling me that I'm not going to get women. So, this is when, because we probably all know at this point, there are just people out there who are out to get you, bro. There are people who don't like you. You have friends who don't like you. You have people who hang out with you to gather intel about you, to learn your secrets, to kind of like implant things in your subconscious. They're kind of like talking down to you, right? This is a good example. Like, you have a friend who rags on you for being short, and then at some point you mention, yeah, I really am struggling with women for being short. It's like, oh, dude, you're such an idiot, man. What about Christian Slater? What about Kanye West? What about, what's that guy who played the Penguin in Batman and was in, I can't remember, the Always Sunny in Philadelphia, short little guy, Danny DeVito. What about Danny DeVito, and we're not going to, like, get into that logic right now. Obviously, those people are extremely high status and rich, and, hey, you know what? Rich people get divorced, too, and rich people have problems, too, believe it or not. But I would say that marks kind of a turning point in your life, okay? You're living your life, you're struggling, and then eventually you start to vocalize some of your disadvantages that have contributed to you struggling, like being short or being bald. And people have a problem with that. Like, they will literally make fun of you for it. But then when you start talking about how it's a disadvantage, people have a problem with that, especially women. Now, let's focus on women having a problem with that. You see, women are supposed to be nurturing in nature. Women like animals. Women like children. I mean, they're supposed to. You're not really supposed to kill them, girls. You're supposed to raise them. Women like to think that they're good people. They tend to vote leftist. They tend to support things like Black Lives Matter, and they're like pro-LGBT, and they're bleeding hearts. and they want to help the disadvantaged. But when a man talks about being disadvantaged, there is a problem. Because they need a big boogeyman who they can kind of like shake their fist at to be responsible for like all the ills of the world. And it's men. And let's be real, it's usually white men. So especially as a white man, but I'm not going to pull the race card in this video, because anybody familiar with the black pill kind of movement online, if you haven't heard me say before, don't ever identify as an incel. That's absolutely terrible, and probably the next thing to go is black pill. Like, I would not identify as these things, guys. These are insults that normies call you. So I wouldn't say, like, if you're a part of the incel movement. There's no incel movement, bro. That's like being a loser. That's like saying there's a loser movement. Like the nerd movement or the loser movement. That's just become an insult that normies call people, bro. Don't ever identify as that. Oh my gosh, I kind of think I lost my train of thinking with that. So, I was just talking about the race card. You know, they have JBW, Just Be White. There's all kinds of people hung up on race, you know? Like, there's memes spreading around, like white women want to be with black guys, and that's beta white guys are getting beat over the head with that. And they're talking about Just Be White. You know, apparently, like, there's these little black guys and Indian guys, and, you know, they put all this stock into being white. I can tell you what, Chad is like a 6'2", 185-pound, ripped or bigger white guy. So I can fully acknowledge that this is such a weird I'm getting all tied up and explaining this. Basically, statistics have shown that the man that the majority of women in the world want is a big, ripped looking white guy. Like a lean, ripped, like a 185er, like Luke Rockhold from UFC. Statistics have shown from dating apps that is what the majority of women want. No, I want dadbod. Tee-hee. Let's talk about dadbod real quick. Oh, dadbod is all the rage. Dadbod actually verifies the black pill. That's actually in line with the black pill. Yes, they do want dad bod. It's more important that you have the 6'2" frame, the good hairline, and the good face than being a 5'6" ripped, muscled up guy with not the good face and not the good hairline. So all dad bod means is that if a guy is like tall and has a good face and a good hairline, that he doesn't have to be super in shape. So basically, dad bod disproves gym maxing is what it really amounts to. So this idea that, oh no, girls like guys with dad bod. Yeah, girls like Chad with a little bit of a beer belly. I saw this thread the other day where a guy posted, he posted some guy who had like visible abs. They were barely visible, but he called it dad bod. It's like, bro, that's probably like 13% body fat. It's not dad bod. Okay, so we've established kind of some of the basics here. So the point of this video is advice. It's like, what do you do about this, man? So we've talked about the gaslighting. That's what gaslighting is. Some people might have a little trouble either understanding what gaslighting is, or you know what it is and it's difficult to explain. Gaslighting is when people basically insult you for saying that you feel a certain way. Like, they insult your ability to discern reality, is what it comes down to. Like, this person was mistreating me. Dude, no they weren't. Oh my gosh, bro, you're so overly sensitive, and it can go to the point where they call you mentally ill. Like, that woman told me that I was ugly. It's like, dude, she didn't really mean you were ugly though, bro. Like, you take things too personally, dude. Honestly, man, I think you need to go get on meds. Okay, so gaslighting is kind of reflecting from this person gaslighting you that your discernment is not to be respected. So when I say people will disrespect you and gaslight you, it's very redundant. It's almost like, this is almost how it can describe how this can like hurt your mental well-being. Because people are trying to act like they're helping you and being nice by gaslighting you. It's almost like the people, and this is what I thought going into this video, it's almost like the people who are insulting you are being nicer to you because they're basically like being honest. And the people gaslighting you are insulting your ability to discern reality. So once you start kind of going on tour and saying, hey everybody, I'm ugly. You know, when you start being like SpongeBob, I am ugly and I'm proud. I am ugly and I'm proud. People are going to start gaslighting you. And when they do it in this kind of like trying to make you feel better, helping tone, it's like, dude, no, you're an idiot. You're not capable. Like, I know that you think that, but that's a delusion. Like, you think that people are disrespecting you, but that's because you're not confident. That's because you don't understand. That's because you don't know any better. And what you need to do is stop telling people that you're ugly, because that's what they're going to do. And you need to take here's an exercise. Like, think about the perfect response to that. What exactly do you want people to say to you telling them that you're ugly and disadvantaged? Because you don't want them to gaslight you. You don't want them to say, no, dude, you're not ugly, like blah, blah, blah. You don't want that. So what do you want them to say? It's like, yeah, you are ugly. Well, that doesn't sound very nice, does it? You see, there is an element of like you're doing something negative. Like, you are trying to share a very bleak struggle with people, and it really is your struggle. But nobody wants to hear it. And you're putting people in a situation where they literally can't say anything that's going to make you happy. And it's almost going to like guarantee that you're going to like that person less. Like, you're going to go up to somebody and tell them something where the only outcome of them responding to that is that you like them less. So it's all in your head, and you do it to yourself, little buddy. See, even I'm gaslighting you now. But this is when a problem happens. You see, when you get to the point in your life where you externalize the fact that you're disadvantaged because you're short and you're bald or you're ugly, it only makes things worse. And some people are like literally too stupid to realize that they're ugly. And that's something that normies will point out. It's like, oh, you know, look at this guy, look at that guy. Now, what it usually is that normies can't really detect. They're either like being dishonest, because they can detect it on a subconscious level. Like, they do recognize real ugliness, and they are reacting accordingly with like judgment and negative body language. But what they're going to tell you is like, oh, look at this guy. It's like, okay, that's like a 6'1", 210-pound guy who's like a little bit overweight, but he has a good face and a good hairline. And they can't really determine, like, black pillars. We got this down to a science. Yeah, baby, that's right, baby. No, not really, but, well, kind of, but it's down to a science, man. The hunter eyes and the jawline and the hairline and the teeth and the skull shape and the frame. You know, I think one of the things you guys are missing out on is arm length. There's people who have above average arm length. Like, look at Conor McGregor's reach, dude. Look at Conor McGregor's reach. You know who actually kind of has a short reach, I think, is Whitaker at 185. But he's a great fighter. There's some great fighters who have short reach. But, and, you know, my reach, I tried to measure it myself, so I don't exactly know, but my dad has an above average reach. My dad is 5'10" with a really long reach, and I am 5'8" with the lower end of an average reach, trying to measure it myself. Now, I have a feeling if somebody else measured it, I'd probably realize it's a little bit longer. I probably undercut it a little bit, but That's one of the ones the black pillars are missing out on, is the reach pill. Volkanovski has really long reach. Anyway, so here's kind of what I came up with, guys. You know, the Matrix analogy, metaphor is kind of beat to death, but I don't think that really applies here. I think for this one, it's like Dragon Ball Z. So when you look at, one of the reasons I've always liked Dragon Ball Z is because, you know, there's all kinds of different shapes and sizes and frames of the character. You do not judge a character's power level by how they look. You know, that's why Vegeta is so universally loved. You know, he shows up with Nappa. Nappa looks like a huge strongman bodybuilder, and then Vegeta's like this like mysterious manlet dude. And then, you know, after like everybody struggles fighting Nappa, Vegeta just tosses him up in the air and blows him up. And that's the thing about anime, you know? I mean, it's not really the real world, obviously, but anime is littered with like slender guys, short guys who kick ass and have this mysterious power. And the main thing you need to focus on is not putting yourself in situations where you get disrespected. So first of all, stop telling people you're ugly, because there's not anything that they can possibly say that you're gonna like, and it automatically lowers your value. And this is just normies' nature, bro. Normies, there's this meme, like the rock, paper, scissors of psychopaths versus autists versus normies. And, you know, normies beat autists, autists beat psychopaths, psychopaths beat normies. And, you know, you're not necessarily an autist, but, you know, like, just basically, like, I don't know, ugly people. You basically can have the life of an autist when you're ugly, is what it comes down to. But what they say about normies, why they beat autists, is because they uphold social norms. This is the nature of a normie. You know, on a subconscious level, their status is kind of like everything to them, whether they realize it or not. And anytime you get into a social interaction with them, they're keeping tabs on like how normal you are. And basically, you're guaranteed to lose face. It's going to make you feel more insecure. It's going to make them like you less. It's going to make you like them less. So do not tell people in social situations. Don't say it on Instagram and DMs. Don't bother talking to your parents about it. I mean, your parents would be the one people to give it a shot, you know. At some point in your life, you give it one shot. You tell your parents, hey, you know what? Women don't like me because I'm short and ugly. And then you gauge their reaction. If they gaslight you, if they give you the bull crap about confidence and whatnot, then just, okay, just whatever. Just out of curiosity, not because like you need your parents' input, but people who are like really close to you, if they really want to know, it's just like, why haven't you gotten married? And why don't you have a family? It's like, you really want to know? You really, 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 really want to know? Come closer. I'm ugly. So there's that. There's not really a reason to discuss it with people. Now for disrespect. So when you're out and about, you're going to social things. I grew up here in Kodiak, Alaska, and like this is probably one of the most superficial places I've ever experienced in my life. All people cared about here was social status and looks. Everything, like, you know, all the cool people were good looking and all the losers were not. And if somebody like becomes cooler, it's because they used to be fat and then they lost weight, or they just aged well. Like literally everything about this town is about looks. All anybody really said to me was that like I was short and bald, and that, you know, I was also talented, so people kind of tried to like really, 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 really lean on that. Like, you're bald, you're short, you're bald, you're short and bald, you're bald, you're bald, you're short, you're short, you're short. And it kind of became awkward like when I started doing cool things. And now that like I have the biggest YouTube channel in town, and now that I'm basically like the biggest celebrity in town, it's getting pretty awkward because pretty much all people did was bully me for the way that I looked. So that's the sound of my social status going down, because that whole entire rant was low value. But I'm helping out the buddies right now. That's pretty close to reality. It's pretty close to reality. But going to parties here, what's going to happen is like a guy's going to get in your space and try to bully you and try to tease you. And what I'm telling you guys is to try to avoid situations like that, because all of this, every time that you tell somebody that you're unattractive and struggling with it, and then they gaslight you, or basically anything they say, that's going to hurt your mental health. And then anytime that somebody like bullies you, or anytime somebody like disrespects you, like there's all kinds of disrespect. You know, they could physically bully you, they could insult you, they could kind of like look at you and ignore you. I mean, there's so many ways that people can disrespect you. And you probably know that they're doing it to you because you're ugly. And another way people will gaslight you is they'll try to tell you that it's like your body language. It's like, it's the way you stand. It's the way you talk. You talk too fast. You say things too fast. They'll kind of like alternate reasons that people don't like you. Like my experience with the IP2 network is there's a stint of people being like, dude, it's not even the way you look, bro. It's the way you talk. And then today I saw on the IP2 board, it's like, imagine thinking I would ever like post about a bald, short, manlet streamer. So they literally alternate back and forth in whatever context to disrespect you more. It's literally like honing in on disrespect. If you point out that they're being cruel about the way you look or being superficial, then they'll claim it's not the way you look, it's the way you act. And then, you know, when you're acting confident, then they tell you that you're ugly and short. Like, these people are attacking you because they smell blood. Because your ugliness is a disadvantage. That's the reality. And the kind of, like, zenful nature of life, this kind of, like, Dragon Ball Z thing that I'm trying to teach you, is like, you know, in martial arts when people say they like use an opponent's body weight against them, you know, you kind of like manipulate, move with somebody. You want to kind of be ducking and dodging in life to where you do not get into these interactions. Now, it is going to happen. And what happens is you'll be in these situations where there's very few things that you could possibly say to deal with it. Especially with women. We've been over this on live streams. If a woman at a bar like loudly disrespects you, like, I don't know why you're talking to me, like you're probably one of the ugliest guys here, and I'd probably like would never date a guy who looks like you. I mean, you get like a 5-second window to say something to that, and a lot of people are looking at you, and some people are laughing. And there's so many ways that you can blow it. The answer that I've come up with, that I would just basically say, you know, if people in the room haven't heard you say this before, you should just say it, because there's not a lot of things you can say that is like, oh, well, the last girl I hooked up with was a lot prettier than you, and she didn't seem to mind the way I look. Something like that. You could sound angry, and they could literally just like look at you and laugh because like social status and looks is basically everything. The problem with black pillars is they have such a strong argument, and they're just going to use it to just get on the ground and rot and die. It's like, look, they're really strong arguments, you guys, but you don't want to give up, man. So that's going to be the hardest one, is when a woman disrespects you. But it's like, oh, you know, the last girl I was with was way hotter than you. I mean, you could say it in a way that kind of puts her down. It's like, oh, well, the last girl I was with is like way harder than you, and she didn't seem to mind. Honestly, I wouldn't flatter yourself. Like, I was just gonna ask you, what am I just gonna ask you? It's like, I was just gonna ask you to move so my friend could sit there. Something like that. I don't know. Keep it short. Keep it simple. But so that's that. That's if a woman disrespects you. But let's focus on if a man disrespects you. All right, because that's a little bit. There's more options there. You can either fight, which the older you get, and this is just kind of like the comical way that life is played out for me, because, you know, at high school parties, that's probably the best atmosphere to fight. Maybe college parties too. I didn't go to a lot of parties in college. That's an atmosphere where fights make the most sense. I can tell you that, like, when you start getting into your later 20s and you're in like career and your 30s and people are adults, I literally just kind of like insinuated that I could beat some people up now. And now like the entire town is like talking about how dangerous I am, and people are just trying to like spread this gossip about how dangerous I am. And I'm getting the idea that the older you get, the less of a good idea it is to fight. And you're going to find yourselves in these kind of like snooty, grown-up situations. I put air quotes because honestly, bro, high school never ends and life is a never-ending popularity contest. Maybe check that video out if you haven't seen it. I honestly find that normies like just become more status obsessed and more judgmental the older they get, and it's just so crazy, man. And I kind of doubt that life was always like this. I think this is a part of over socialization, which I'm going to save that for another video. I wanted to make a video about over socialization. So fighting, you know, work out, learn martial arts, have that an option. Because every now and then you might be in a situation where it's like, hey, you know what? I'm at some sort of a house party or something where I'm going to have time to get out of here before the cops show up. And I can take this guy who's talking crap to me. And you know what? He's really trying to disrespect me in a very embarrassing way. And I'm going to go for it. And I'm going to kick his ass. So, you know, try to have that as an option. But there's going to be times when guys who you don't want to fight for various reasons, one of them that you can't take them, are going to disrespect you. And the best thing I can come up with, bro, is you basically just try to act like you didn't hear it. And then you immediately disengage. You immediately disengage from the situation. And I know that kind of sounds like cope, but there's really like not a lot you can do. And what you want to do is just not get in that situation. If you see somebody like across the room walking towards you with a smug face, like, hey, look at that beta. And then they start like walking towards you, get away before they get close to you and talk crap. Like, go somewhere else, pretend to answer your phone, go to the bathroom. You see, I'm to a point where I don't really go to situations like that. I mean, basically, boyos, you're gonna get mogged. Like, if you're an ugly guy and you go to like I don't go to bars, I don't go to clubs, I don't go to house parties, bro, because you're gonna get mogged, and you're gonna get people talking down to you, and it's not good for you. It's not good for your confidence. It's not good for your mental health. It's not good for your self-image. It's not good to vent or talk about it. It's not ever good to go to therapy. I basically recommend that men never go to therapy. So you're gonna want to just like really figure out what you're about, man. You know, I think the bottom line for ugly people is you need to accelerate your evolution. You need to have a purpose. You need to decide why you're here. I always recommend that people find Christ, specifically Catholicism or Orthodoxy, but you need to figure out like what it is you want to do with yourself, man, you know, because the normie track of like just trying to win friends and influence people it's just going to be harder for you. And while you are, I guess the best way I could think of it is like, think that you're playing like one of those games. What's the game? Like Splinter Cell, where you kind of like sneak around, or Metal Gear Solid, you know, and then there's like the exclamation point, like, wah! When the exclamation point pops on somebody's head, wah! And then they try to like come get you or something. That's like a normie trying to come embarrass you or something, and you got to get out of there. Like, you're playing like a stealth game. So if you're going to a party, if you're going to be in a social situation, if you're going to be in a function, don't put yourself in situations where you think somebody is going to try to talk down to you or disrespect you. And now, keep this in mind. A lot of times, people will try to talk down to you or disrespect you when nobody's even listening. It will just be a one-on-one interaction. See, that's a lot easier to deal with. What I've been referring to is kind of when they're trying to put you down in front of a group. But when I'm saying like act like you didn't even hear it or turn your back, here's a really good one. Let me show you what I would do if it was a one-on-one interaction. And you could actually do this in front of people too. I'll put the camera here. Alright, he needs to be higher up. Here's a good place to put the camera. Okay, so, like, you're gonna say something, like, disrespectful to me right now. It's like, oh yeah, well that's probably because you're a bald manlet who nobody likes. Turn your back right in their face like that. Literally just, like, flip a 180 and do not take a step forward. Now be careful, because they might push you. Like that, they might, like, try to fight you or something. But that's a good one. Like, if it's somebody that you could beat their ass, but you don't want to, like, start the fight because everybody's a normie and they're gonna call the cops. And there's so many things like that where a girl's like, yeah, kick his ass. And then if you start beating the crap out of the guy, then they're all gonna call the cops. And then when the cops show up, they'll be like, I saw it. He attacked him. It's not a good idea to fight, okay? I haven't even, like, been close to a fight here, but people are seeing it. I'm hitting the heavy bag. I'm jumping rope. I'm running 5Ks. I'm, like, 30 pounds heavier than I was when I lived here. Everybody is, like, crying to the cops here, and I haven't even done anything because they know I can beat their ass, dude. And the guys who I can't beat their ass, they're minding their own business because they're real men. All these little girly guys are, like, crying. That's my experience being back in my hometown in my 30s, is people know that they did me wrong. People know that they undercut me, and now I'm dangerous. I used to be a pussy, and now I'm dangerous. And I gotta tell you, man, I like being dangerous a lot better. I heard that women liked guys who were dangerous, but I don't know. Maybe I'll have to experience that when I move. I'm not really dangerous, by the way. But that's a really good one, okay? So if it's a guy who, like, you don't mind, like, throwing it back in his face, turn your back. Like, just do not respond. Don't ever respond to disrespect. And that could get awkward when you're in, like, the big crowd and somebody says something to try to disrespect you. Do not ever respond to it. It's like that no contact rule. How do you handle narcissists? No contact. How do you handle immediate narcissism? In that moment, no contact. You immediately shut down that conversation. But, yeah, I really like that one, man. You turn your back right in front of their face, stand there for a few seconds, maybe wait for them to walk away, and then just walk away. Maybe that sounds stupid to you, but I can just tell you, man, this is like a hidden art. The hidden art of the man who isn't really that great looking on the outside, who, you know, you have crappy hairline, you're short, or you're not a Chad, but you're smart, you got things to offer, you got skills, you're worth it, you provide value, and you're just not going to tolerate disrespect is what it comes down to, man. And you're not going to complain to people about your burden of being disadvantaged, because I don't know if I completed my thought about women, but they want to feel like they're good people, and they want to complain about disadvantaged people. The most disadvantaged people in this country are ugly men, by far. Statistically, you can see statistically that it's not even close. Literally right now, I think white men are being weeded out of the workforce. It looks to me like what happened in 2020 with all of that craziness was some sort of like a Marxist revolution that is trying to push white men out of the workforce. So, now I'm not going to say that white men are more oppressed than, like, minority men. Ugly men, period. That's my brothers. That's my black brothers in the hood. Black people, Indians, men. Ugly, short men, okay? It's beyond race. We are the most oppressed people in this country, and people laugh at that. But they're obsessed, normies are obsessed with oppression, and, you know, in the workforce, it's like they have artificially pushed women up. Well, it's like, hey, man, maybe, like, I should artificially be put in a sick band because I'm an ugly drummer. I'm disadvantaged because I'm ugly, but I shred the drums. Help me get in a band, bro. Like, give me a crutch. Give me a leg up, you know? Like, put me in a sick band because I'm disadvantaged as an ugly drummer. I'm an ugly rapper, you know? Like, give me a freaking record deal with Interscope and, like, blow me up because I'm disadvantaged, bro. Like, I have all these skills, And it's not a meritocracy, you know? A lot of it's about your charisma and how good you look, and your charisma comes from having good experiences, and ugly people have had a lot of bad experiences. Like I said, it hurts your mental well-being. But that's not how it is, and that's not ever how it's going to be, bro. And that's part of the reason that ugly men are the absolute most disenfranchised, most oppressed people in the West today. And you need to develop this art form of not allowing disrespect, realizing that the whole, like, oh, I'm just going to lift weights and get strong and tough and then people are going to respect me. No, dude, they're going to, like, try to tattle the cops on you over and over and over again, because these people just don't like you. And it's honestly, like, beyond just the way you look. Like, if you have value, you know, if you've kind of, like, maxed in these certain ways and you're trying to overcome it, these people decided a long time ago that you belong in this category, and they compared themselves to you, and they thought of themselves as better than you. And as time went on, they coasted off of the little bit of status and looks they had, and they're not happy with where they ended up. And then here comes you 10 years later, and you know, you dress better, and you're bigger, and you're stronger, and you're smarter, and you're funnier, and you're wiser, and they don't like it, bro. And they want to remind you of when you were a little insecure person when you're 15. And what I think is funny is there's all these guys in my town who walked around like they were men when they were 16 and 17, and now that we actually are grown men, they ain't nothing, bro. They're nothing to write home about, and they're crying to the police that I exist. They're literally telling the police that I exist. And so far, from what I've been going through in this town, police got my back, dude. I got a homie on the force, man. And I know it's not going to be like that in other places, but I lucked out, bro. That's the funny thing about, like, some of these harassment programs is that sometimes the police, like, don't come at the police negative, dude. Be reasonable with the police. Take it slow. Keep your hands to yourself. Be calm, cool, and collected. Do not assume that the police are going to give you a hard time, man. The people that are going to give you a hard time are normies. And Neighborhood Watch is like a bunch of normies with tiny dicks who sit around all day and pissed off about how inferior they are. And then they, like, you know, they look for a target. And then they try to use the police against them. But you can get the police on your side. Anyway, that kind of doesn't have that much to do with the video, but I'm just putting it out there. I've had good experiences with the police here, so thank you very much for being reasonable with me, KPD. I really appreciate it. Alaska State Troopers is another story. But anyway, it's about time for me to go. Good luck, all you ugly mother flippers out there. It's not over, man. This isn't a black pill video, because this is like, you need to be that weird looking guy in Dragon Ball Z who, like, the big muscly people are afraid of, and, you know, obviously that's like anime, but you can cultivate your mind. That's stoicism, man, is like, you don't worry about the things that you can't control. You don't want to do some stupid surgery, okay? Like, forget all of that. You need to navigate normies in their disrespect, because now back to the Matrix. They are wrapped up in the Matrix, and they operate by these normie rules. And once you can kind of bend and take advantage of these normie rules, it's not easy. And I haven't even done that great of a job explaining it, but I think it's something that can only be practiced. And you start by not giving up on life. You stop complaining, period, because that lowers your value. And you just don't accept disrespect. And you develop ways to navigate around situations where you think people are going to disrespect you, whether it's aggressively or passive aggressively. I hope this helps somehow. God bless you, my friends. Until next time.